Well met. Welcome to the pregame hangout here for Isekai Realms. We're barreling down toward the end of the season, and we got some exciting stuff to happen. Oh boy! Um, so this episode, this is the this is the Red Wizards episode, right? Right?
It
Or
Yes.
yes.
it is entitled Red Wizards, Dead Wizards. Yes.
So this episode, I feel like we kind of came into our own and were effective for the first time in a while. Like up until this point, we had escaped from some things. We had
Possibly
pulled
for the
off some
first
major
time.
things. Like last episode, we got out of there barely. But this
Yeah,
episode, I feel like we were kind of on top of things.
a little
A
more.
little bit at least.
A little, yeah,
a little more.
a little more than normal. A little more
A
than
little more than normal. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it should be an exciting episode to watch. And now, because we're past them both, we can fully talk about episodes 8 and 9, which were the Purple Lady episodes, bookending
Yes.
experience of the Purple Lady. And
Mm.
episode 9 ended with a gut punch, which I
Little
thought
bit.
was interesting. You've had characters, NPCs die before, Eric, on the original Westgate Irregulars, to great dramatic effect. And
Mhm.
so I was curious as to what people thought. Was it a completely unexpected occurrence, or were you thinking, okay, well, someone's going to die eventually?
I did a lot of talking. I'm going to let someone else answer.
Fair enough.
I mean, when he went down, it seemed like it seemed things were bad enough that it seemed like getting out of there was unlikely without taking some losses. But I don't know. I did not specifically anticipate Finnan dying.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
expect that. That took me by surprise, certainly.
Good, because as you've gone along through this particular book and this particular adventure, there have been consistently NPCs with you as you've gone on, little adventures, starting with sort of May and Oldor from Redansir forward into Westgate. And even, the NPCs that Randy recruited, the kids,
Right.
in the episode when you went to the Thalivars, you've sort of like had them around you. And Finnan has been a part of the show since episode 6, where he sort of shows up in response to what happens in the dreams in episode 5. And
Yeah.
so this is the first person. You lost an NPC very early on in episode 2 with Rhea, but you didn't really get a chance to get to know her, right? Like you had a very brief interaction with her in the inn. So you didn't really get a whole lot around her personality and character. Whereas with Finnan, you'd been interacting with him solidly for a few episodes in a row, all of episode 6, 7, 8, and most of episode 9. So, 4 episodes out of 11. You'd had a back and forth with Finnan. And I think, Randy, you were the closest to him because he had been sort of taking you under his wing to explain the faith.
I was nowhere near him when he died. You can't blame me. I didn't do it. What are you talking about? Oh,
Great
closest
job.
to him, like, oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Emotionally.
Sure.
Randy in
And-
the common room with the wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I thought
With the
it
vampires.
was particularly poignant the way you all reacted to the sort of tragedy of the situation, because you realized that you'd stumbled into something at the Purple Lady that was bigger than all of you,
Oh, yeah.
and that you'd sort of been involved in the kickoff to the violence that enveloped the place, which was all part of your friend's plan to get out. Your friend's hastily assembled plan to get out.
Calling it a plan may be generous, but
I mean,
anyway.
it's exactly what she would have done, though.
Yeah,
So
yes, that was very
It was a
generous.
plan, and it worked for her.
yeah,
Yeah.
it worked for her, and it happened to work for most of us.
And it
This is one of her more successful plans.
There you go.
That's a low bar to clear. But yes.
I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think anyone, including Rhiannon, expected that when she brought fire to the doors that it would necessarily do what it did. And so like I'm when I rewatched the episode, I'm giving my description of the fire roaring forth from her hands. And I say that it envelops the two humans and turns them to columns of ash. And then I say the vampire, however, is more constitutious. And so she's like, "Oh, okay, I'm only doing this much damage to it. It pinions around in agony before turning into a column."
And she's like, "Whoa, yeah."
So yes, so that you set fire to the building yourself, Eric, when you tipped over that lamp upstairs.
I remember that.
Yeah,
But-
I imagine you were expecting a slower burn. If
Right,
you
a slow burn that gives people time to evacuate.
Right.
Right
I
there.
was expecting mostly smoke, actually.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a long time for something to burn from the top down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so when you all
Yeah.
have to race out of there, go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say, I fully expected, especially there are no, I mean, the OSHA requirements in the Forgotten Realms are horrible.
They are.
Like the
That's true.
health inspectors are like all paid off in Westgate. So, and this is a place
Yeah.
full of vampires. So I expected everything to be made of asbestos, obviously. And
Inflammable, really.
yeah, really, I expected it to be completely inflammable. So it was quite a shock indeed.
Yeah.
To all of us, yeah.
Which is not to imply that I think Rhiannon did the wrong thing. I don't think that at all. Rhiannon is the reason we escaped.
That is absolutely correct.
Rhiannon
Well,
and Randy
Rhiannon-
doing his thing.
Yeah, that is absolutely
and Finnan.
And
Well,
Finnan
yes.
was important in motivating us to escape.
but if you hadn't
And he
done
bought
what
us some
you did,
time. That's
correct,
true.
yeah, if you hadn't done what
Yeah.
you did, you wouldn't have gotten out of there, despite the fact that he jumped up on the table and kept the vampires at bay for you for a while. That's a whole different animal from getting out the door. And like I said, I have a sense of what you guys do, like any DM, but I don't really know. And so
Mhm.
Randy was the one who surprised me the most with the shield that succeeded
yeah.
in like protecting you all in a much more efficient and effective way than I was sort of assuming that you would be. I thought you'd be scrambling out of there on your hands and knees with the place on fire behind you, but you actually got to back your way out of there in a fairly controlled retreat because Randy did that in a fairly clever way.
Yeah,
So I thought
that was
I thought
that was
pretty
really good. And it was necessary.
Yes. And I also appreciated the fact that even in the sort of desperation of the situation and the fact that everything had gone, not according to plan and wrong, that most of you made a concerted effort to try to do what you could at the last minute, right? Like Eric, you and Randy dragged that, last woman out of there. You were like, okay, I'm leaving here and I'm looking around the room and there's a bunch of people in need of saving and I can't get all of them, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to at least get one, right?
I was gonna try.
Yeah.
And I did try.
Now, admittedly,
Randy and I tried.
your
Well,
means,
and you got one. But I kind of interpreted that as Chris telling Eric, like signaling to Eric repeatedly, like, no, really, go out. I mean, he told us at one point, I expect you to be out of the building in a round. And then Eric is still standing there like, should I charge into the basement and fight? It's like, fight whatever's down there. And I kind of view that as Chris giving like, okay, fine, here's somebody to save. Do your paladin thing. But that requires going out the door.
that was a question. If you think about it, okay, so as a DM, I'm forced to improvise on the regular, right? Like every DM is forced to improvise on the regular. And because we're playing in the theater of the mind largely for book one, right? I've got close your eyes and imagine the room kind of thing. And so somebody, I think it might have even been you, Joel, asked me also in this episode, so who's at the tables near the door?
Yep.
And that forced me to say, okay, so who is at the tables near the door? And that ended up creating a situation where you had a dead person and a nearly dead person being fed on by the vampire that was sitting at the tables by the door because you asked me. And in the same way, Eric, like, okay, so who's in the room and who's trying to get out? Well, of course, there are going to be a bunch of people that are not quite dead that are trying to get out of this place, but that have been weakened by blood loss and all these other things. So that it was the dice decided the gender of that person, the location of that person, etc. Once you ask the question, well, who around me could I conceivably save? And Randy made the point at great personal risk of doing a left around the back of the building to see if there was a clever way to get back into those kitchens.
Right. And
Because that was an unexpected find, right?
that made a
So-
lot of sense to me why Randy would do that.
Yeah,
Because Randy
yeah.
is just extremely chaotic
Well,
good. Emphasis on the good
Mhm. And once
and
he
on the chaotic.
And once he confirmed that the back door was in fact open and wasn't like barred from the outside or something, he could leave in good conscience because, he fires at the other side of the building. If, it would be something very strange would have to happen for the kids to not escape at that point.
Well, I don't think you
Yeah.
wanted to leave, right, Randy? I
I
got the
did not,
impression.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you made it clear that I think there were a couple of vampires who
2 of them right
There
outside.
were.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, most likely those poor kids were used to regenerate hit points. But
Eh, yeah, okay.
Most
Maybe.
likely
Well,
those
we don't
kids
know
were
that
used to
for
put out the
sure.
flames. Anyway,
Technically, 2 vampires regenerate without like having to eat children right away.
actually-
yeah,
They
I
do need
guess-
Oh,
I
okay.
guess it's true.
Yeah, it's actually
So
correct.
much better.
The natural
in
regeneration.
my day, we had to eat.
I will point out though. I will point out that some of us might have made more of an effort to help those children if we'd known they were there. The rest of us were
Fair.
told.
That is true.
I
Well, it
mean,
was-
there was only so much time to convey that information.
Correct.
That is also
Which-
true.
And the thing that was the most hilarious to me as a DM about the whole episode 8, episode 9 experience is when you guys are at the doors of the place in episode 8, like almost the last thing you say to each other is, let's not split up.
Mhm.
And then, and then right after you get inside, you
That's
split up
immediately the plan. Yeah.
3 separate.
This guy
groups.
delights in it. That's splitting up the party, even though we're never gonna split up.
But actually, even before he did that, I was the first one to split, actually. So
Yeah,
we can't even really blame that one on the DM.
you're
And then
saying
Randy followed me.
cancel this
So.
party. Yeah.
Yeah, if he
So-
made
so
it really
that was
boring
sort of
though, you would
funny
have stayed around.
Yeah. It made it hard for you guys to coordinate over much because you were in many instances in different spots. And so you only had, as Eric points out, short periods of time to coordinate your actions once you guys were apart, we're together, we're apart, we're together.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
whole upstairs thing where Rhiannon goes up there and she tries to get into the room and she tries to make the whatever. And your friend it has her own plans, so does not particularly want to be interrupted by Rhiannon, so succeeds in splitting you guys up again. I thought was sort of fun, but also I'm sure frustrating for the players. But
No
it
doubt.
made for what I thought was a really good adventure. I thought these 2 episodes, 8 and 9, hung together really well in terms of like storytelling. I thought they were like, if you just watched those as a viewer, I think you'd get a self-contained and fairly entertaining tale.
I think
about
so.
what happened. And
I want to make it clear that my whole goal was to make sure all of you got out. And then secondarily, I was like, I have a little more time. I'm going to see if I can rescue another person or more people or go back to rescue the children or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So that's what that was. It wasn't me like delaying because I wasn't sure what to do. It was me saying, okay, I have an opportunity to do a good thing here. I'm going to try and do it. Right.
Yep. I also thought the way you guys play lends itself to these sort of perfect comedy setups. And so like Rhiannon is musing in the street, sauntering down it, conversing with the voice in her head about Helm and you and your motives as whether you're really a good guy or not. And then we had that cut to you cauterizing the wound on that woman with a blazing weapon.
Yeah, very paladin thing to do.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, that whole sequence, and then her trying to like get away from you, like
You woke up and there was a
we're trying to help
madman
you.
burning you. Yeah, like it makes
And then we were
man.
like, oh yeah, healing potions. That's right.
We have those.
I will say you get the award for the cringiest moment in this entire book thus
oh
far.
god, that's true. I forgot about that.
That's a hard one.
Okay,
that's-
what did I do?
Well, you responded to Illyra calling you lover
Oh.
by calling
Oh.
her daughter.
Yeah.
refractory period
If you
daughter.
if you look at that moment in the episode, if you like actually pay
Everyone's
attention,
faces are like, oh my god,
ev-
did he just
everyone has the most visceral responses. Like,
But in terms of responses, watching the episode, one thing that I thought was very funny was the moment when Illyra does the pretending to stab herself thing, and Allie's just like, oh, and all the other players are like, yep, here it is.
Yep, there, yep. Mm-hmm.
curse you in your sudden but inevitable betrayal?
Yeah.
And I was looking at her going down, and I'm like, I am so proud of you.
I mean, I will
Yep.
say, like, in the moment,
this was the right thing to do.
in the moment, I was likewise, yeah, that tracks. I wasn't worried, not remotely worried, because I'm like, no, this is she would absolutely do this.
Very consistent. Very consistent.
I mean, it also helps that A, I'm pretty sure Eric would not have just randomly stabbed her, and B,
I mean, probably not.
Probably not. And B, I saw the
well, in a book I would have, but you know, in this game, no.
I saw the
Sorry, go
stiletto
on.
being handed to Eric, so
Mhm.
there was a little bit of a setup. I did catch the kind of moment, so that worked out well, I think.
Oh, the only thing missing there was would have been a little whisper. Thank you, Daddy.
No,
Mhm.
no.
The parting remarks.
Father, I didn't really mean it in a sexual way.
I thought
I
that I
know.
thought the parting remarks back and forth were pretty good between the two. of them. I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
You gotta answer the banter, or it's just gonna keep going.
yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
and it's gonna get worse.
Yeah. It's
You
Yeah,
gotta
so, like,
show that you're not bothered by it, even if you are bothered by it.
because if you
sort of
are
like
bothered by
standing
it
up
and
to a
she can
bully.
tell you're bothered by it, she's just gonna keep going.
Because that version of Illyra is a brat. That's her whole personality. She's a brat.
And that's how
And
you end up
that
with
really
wine
came
in your
across.
lap. That's how you end up with wine in your lap. That's
Yeah, that tracks.
So do you all have a favorite NPC from the book?
I mean,
Our
do you
book,
really have to
not
ask me that
Eric's
question?
book.
Yeah,
you mean-
book one. Does everyone have a favorite NPC from book one? Why don't we go around the room? Allie?
Like I said, you really have to ask me that question.
Okay,
I mean,
so we know your answer.
If Illyra shows up, Illyra is going to steal the show for me. That she is a favorite of mine in the setting entirely. So I'm going to be a bit biased in that regard.
And she was
Gotcha.
very, very recognizable.
Yes.
Like it was clearly her. And it was clearly her in that incarnation of her. So, yeah, I think you did pretty well there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say Illyra, though.
I didn't think
I got really emotionally attached to Jamal, actually. I found Jamal very relatable and sympathetic,
Mhm.
and very compassionately presented.
Thank you.
So I really liked her. I was concerned when we first met up with her that I was like, oh God, we're gonna like cross this woman and she's gonna hate us. And that didn't happen.
Nope.
At least it hasn't happened yet. I don't wanna give spoilers or anything.
So
But like
again, that's a Jeff Grubb creation, right? Like, you know, or maybe Kate Novak, right? I'm not sure who actually came up with
Right.
Jamal. But the bottom line was I had somebody to sort of work with, but I didn't have a ton of material. I think she only appears in one book. But there's
Yeah, I
a
think
fair
so.
amount conveyed about her and the complexity of her personality in that one book. And so I
Mhm.
thought I did my best to try to do her justice. I thought she was a cool character when I read the book, you know, back when I was but a lad.
I liked her a
stuck
lot.
with me. And so I liked that series, that whole Azure Bonds, Curse of the Azure Bonds series, which, gee, that someone's got marks and it's got things in it. And like, I wonder if this had some sort of formative impact on me, right? So it's kind of a cool idea. But anyway, all right. So that's your choice, Eric. Joel?
So I am actually going to say Rhiannon's voice.
Ah.
I mean,
You discovered my favorite NPC too, Joel.
I mean, absolutely.
Who's surprised by that
absolutely
being
gives some
Chris's
bad
favorite
advice.
NPC? No hands up.
Absolutely gives some bad advice, but so mean and so accurate.
That is
Yeah.
a fun fun NPC to play, because you get like you wait for all the great moments of like sarcastic delivery, and then you can just go, and you immediately know, oh, it's back. And I seem to do a pretty good job of keeping Rhiannon laughing with it. She enjoys the banter, even if it irritates her that it's there.
Entertained and
enjoys
annoyed.
the banter.
I would not be sad to have a conversation with Rhiannon's voice at some point.
I would not call it accurate. I do not find it accurate in the slightest. But
well, not everything it says.
It's mean.
But
it's mean, and I don't like it.
It is absolutely mean.
It's devilishly mean and clever.
I feel like if I got to talk to mine more, it would be sassy.
It's sassy.
I feel like mine would be sassy if I had a little more lengthy conversation
more interaction with it.
Yeah.
All right, Randy, how about you?
I was going to say Jamal as well, just in the sense of, she was a very layered and well-rounded character. Believable, she has things that she cares about, and she has pain in her past, and she has, et cetera, et cetera. So she was a very believable character, for she lives on in my mind as a character, as a person. After the episodes, and then and that's a great one. I didn't think of Rhiannon's voice, but that's a perfect answer as well. Like,
yeah, right. That is a kind of
it is a good one.
But yeah, I Jamal in particular agreed with you, vibed with you over the sort of shared faith, or growing in your case, but existing in her case for Finder. And so that gave you something to bond over. But yeah, I thought there was some good dialogue between her and Ju, and some good dialogue between her and Eric, because Eric was sort of like, okay, it's the new hero in town. He's going to be, the person who's going to be the small hero, and blah, blah, blah. And so I thought there were some excellent moments for dialogue there. Chris, you're just a viewer, but
sure-ish.
Yeah.
So my favorite NPC has not yet been introduced. I encourage the viewers to watch.
Okay. Yes, indeed. We have a couple episodes left. Perhaps there's an NPC in there somewhere that you like. It's hard to say, but okay. All right. So that was the thing I sort of wanted to know from all of you.
I want to give a brief shout out to Finnan. I think Finnan was a very effective NPC who we really cared about very deeply.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's part of why we had that really strong emotional reaction, which is going to carry over into this episode, as I recall.
Yes.
Like you're going to see more fallout, more of it going through, because we kind of think we can revive him.
Yes.
And maybe we can. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Players never like to let something bad happen and to let it go unanswered, right? Like players always think, okay, so I have the power to change this. I will figure out a way to make this bad thing that happened not happen, or to fix this bad thing that's occurred.
Right. And what goes down with Finnan alters how we make choices in the next couple episodes going forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Assessment.
So, yeah, you'll see.
Yeah,
you'll,
that's absolutely.
You'll see.
Did you have any idea at the conclusion of episode 9 where things would go in episodes 10 or 11? Did you have, or was that what occurred in those more of a surprise for you?
I mean, so Eric had not shared that. Okay, in character, Eric had not shared that information with us yet that he got from Illyra. But I think we knew that out of character, we knew that we had to go get Gedrin because we had a sharp time limit until morning, until that ship left. So I think we knew that we had, our next action was going to be immediately go to the boat, or go to the ship to get Gedrin back. I don't think we knew. I at least didn't know exactly what form that was going to take.
So that,
I mean, on a meta gaming level, did we know that you were going to screw us over in some way, Chris? Yeah, no, we did. So I mean, it can't be entirely a surprise.
I like to think
that's not a spoiler, is it? Chris is going to screw us over.
I like to think of it as providing you with interesting challenges.
Sure.
Wow.
All right.
What a way to
Well,
phrase it.
we are at time, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
So now
I'll say one
stick
last
around
thing.
and watch
Yeah.
Chris screw us over. Okay,
There
go
you go.
ahead, Chris.
Enjoy this episode, but join us on the 30th of the month as we may have a surprise for all of you.
We're cooking up something special.
yes. All right.
All right.
And, yeah, enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
Thank you.